Well, that was brilliant. End of podcast. It was brilliant. I'm Luke, editor and runner of the website, thecustardtv.com. Matt's here in the northern area.
Hello.
And Gary's here in the London-ish area. We've
Bonjour,
just...
my friend. Just skip. Whoa. Don't I get to say hello like he did? Bonjour.
I don't really care. I already said metaphorically hello. We have just finished in our own ways. We've just finished watching The Missing. We weren't watching it together, but we were watching it linearly, or at least 50% of us were. Matt had already skipped ahead.
Well, that's
66%.
Oh, God.
66.6 recurring, to be fair.
We have just finished the final 8th episode of The Missing Series 2, which, in my opinion, was just...
Oh, that's what we were watching. Oh.
Yeah. Did you not know? Did you not get the email?
No.
I just thought
what were you watching?
I was watching The Last Miners. That's
okay.
what we were talking about.
What I liked about it, being a closure nerd, was it gave me complete closure. Complete closure from Harry and Jack Williams, who wrote the series. Just perfection. I can't remember the last time I was so... I mean, there wasn't a dull moment of that episode, but I don't think there was a dull moment of the series.
No.
No, there was no wasted time at all.
And yeah, anything you thought was sort of time wasted later came back as there was a reason for that. Like, for example, if we go into it, the meeting between Sophie and the waiter in for example, that felt like a sort of completely arbitrary scene, and then he's the one who shows them where she is.
There was one bit in this episode as well that I totally loved, was the fact that they found his wallet with the Swiss francs in it. And if you remember,
always pick up on the minutiae. The things you love are always the weird minutiae things that most people...
Yeah, but these are the sort of things that make me go, yes, this was a great show. The fact that when he got to the toy shop with his granddaughter, or supposed granddaughter...
No, his daughter.
Oh, his daughter. Sorry, you're right, daughter. He didn't have his wallet with him.
It's the bigger things he doesn't quite catch.
The bigger things he doesn't quite catch. Like who's related to who.
Names, things like that. But the little things I get right.
The little things. We ended last week's episode with the revelation that Alice was still alive.
Yep.
And this episode sort of had, I suppose we had the two timelines. We had the 2014, just before Sophie came back as Alice, which was the first scene of the series.
Mm-hmm.
And the 2016 scenes as the Websters and Baptiste went to Switzerland to track down Getrick and try and find the girls. I think that's basically what happened this episode, isn't it?
Pretty much.
If the beginning of this episode was the beginning of the very first episode, you could still watch it and enjoy, because you can watch it now and think, they don't know it's their daughter, blah, blah. It still works as a...
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But the thing you'd be watching, would be... And I was thinking this, the bits I'd like to go back and watch would be the bits where Sophie as Alice was in the hospital, because Getrick was in the background of some of those scenes, wasn't he?
Yes.
That's right, yes.
He didn't become like a character, really, till he finished off the fella with the drill.
I think we would know him because we know who Derek Riddle is, because we watch.
It's sort of like he's a recognisable actor, but he's not a name. He's someone you sort.
He does follow me on Twitter prior to The Missing, so I sort of know.
Someone sort of you can believe would be playing a sort of minor role. He's not a name that you know. He's a face,
but he's a face.
I mean, he had sort of roles in like Undercover earlier this year, where he was the main baddie in that, and also
had a big role in the first Happy Valley as well.
Happy Valley, yeah. But it's sort of like supporting roles. as I say, I mean, me and you watch a lot of TV. I couldn't tell you his name off the top of my head. I'd recognise
Derek Riddle.
him.
He follows me on Twitter.
It was the same. Yeah, but a lot of people follow you on Twitter.
Yeah, they
do. And it was the same in Undercover. And I had to look at, even though I remember looking him up to find out who he was when I watched him in Undercover. I still had to look him up and find out who he was again when I saw him in The Missing.
That's disrespectful.
That's my point. Is he's one of those familiar faces that you see on TV, but you wouldn't have thought, oh, he's there because he's got a bigger role later on.
No.
But
yeah, I understand what Matt is saying.
Where do you imagine? I mean, I'd love to speak to the Williams brothers, but where do you imagine you start on a story like that? It is so intricate. I mean, when you look back at the first series, it was The Missing. It was about a missing child. This was so much more.
It was quite linear, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one was basically they started with the disappearance, didn't they?
I mean,
whereas we joined this at the reappearance. Which
in a way, though, the story goes back like 25 years to those scenes in Iraq in 1991.
Well, and yet those scenes don't appear till episode 7.
But that's the basis for, like, obviously that Roger Allam knowing what had happened and Henry Reed knowing what had happened, and the reason that they framed Christian Hertz for the abduction.
Yeah.
It just seems like the reason it worked is because the story was just so effortless. It didn't appear like they tried. It just appeared like it opened up in front of them, and they just.
You can imagine that there were storyboards and huge whiteboards full of timelines in their writing room, and I just picture that there was this like, right, now we need to go back to this bit and do this bit, and it would have been fantastic to have been in that room where they were formulating that idea of what they were going to do and how they were going to jump between the things, So
the main blank they sort of filled in here is why Sophie had to come back as Alice in the first place. That
was my first ever question after the first episode. If it wasn't her, then why wouldn't she, reach out
after
for her own
he killed?
parents?
Well, I think we thought she'd escaped, but obviously she was let go.
Well, that's right. We were meant to think she escaped.
And obviously the Henry Reed thing, that was cleared up. He was killed by Getrick. I think we sort of put that together, but we weren't sure why exactly that happened.
Did we ever know, was there ever any investigation or anything about how he died at the first point? In other words, was there any ever explanation?
Because they thought it was a suicide, didn't they?
Right. He moved things.
Because not many killers shoot people in the mouth. That's how people commit suicide often.
Yeah.
So I see what you mean. Yeah, that's what I couldn't remember.
Well, although
his cause of death.
One slight thing is that nobody thought to inform the transsexual prostitute about it, the one he bought the easel for.
I presume that was be in the next series if we get one.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you go back to the first episode, of course, you've got Alice pretending not to know she'd had a baby, who we now know is Lucy.
Yeah.
She pretends that she doesn't exist because obviously Alice didn't have.
She doesn't want her to be
She
discovered, does she? Yeah, she doesn't want she doesn't want the Lucy to be discovered. So,
and also we did make that comment in the first episode how much like a zombie she looked, and again there was a reason for that because she was had this sort of fever that it was the only way that basically Getrick could stop her from dying.
What was interesting was the dynamic between her and Alice whilst being, in the basement, which we never really got to see. We always kind of guessed at and thought about that actually it was Alice who was the strong one and was the one that in some way had tried to stand up to Getrick, because he said she was always arguing, she was always making, she never conformed in the same way that Sophie did.
The revelation as well that the girl in the shed was Lena Garber, who was who was killed sometime before the events that unfolded. And I think they just had her body lying around.
And I'm assuming the body that they found in the boot towards the end is the other police detective.
Yes.
Although again, you never see anything, but you make a fairly strong claim because he tells him
because he was a nice guy. He's probably the nicest character in the show.
Well, again.
It's never going to last long if he was a lovely person, though, was
it?
Yeah.
Right.
He's writing his poems and recording his songs for Laura Fraser and things.
Yeah.
And
you could say it takes some thing from Scandi Noir, the way it sort of paced.
Well,
I think that does it a disservice.
Well, it took an actor from Scandi Noir.
Well, it did, rather. Hold on.
I would have liked him to have shown up at the end by Julian's bedside.
I think they took the best elements of Nordic noir, certainly the atmosphere, the music, the bleakness, and I think the strong character element that Nordic noir has given us, those very remarkable characters, the killing and the bridge and things like that. What it's added in is strong British acting, and I think, as you said, very big story writing, but effortless story writing. Very, very clever.
Well, but I think it does it a disservice to compare it, doesn't it? Because it's just
it stands on. I know what you're saying, Luke, because it has got that shooting style and the sort of bleakness of Nordic noir, but it's also got a Britishness to it. I think
that's what I'm saying. I think they've borrowed from both, which is fine. I don't think
it's borrowing as much as sort of
inspired by.
Borrowing would be something ridiculous like River. That was.
But okay, fair. We'll agree to disagree.
Or the what's From Darkness. That was horrible. Yeah. I just think Ben Shannon's directed, and specifically the scenes just before as the police are getting in on Gettrick, you have the scene of Lucy
running through
and just getting scooped up by the policeman, Gettrick going through the long, tall sort of trees and the grass. All that scene is so well directed, and
it shows you why he picked that in the show. That location.
I just think the direction of those scenes was so good, and the interrogation scene as well with Baptiste and
all
Gettrick,
the big close-ups of the face.
Yeah. I just think it has, and obviously we know Ben Shannon from doing cyberbullying the people next door and stuff, and he has a very sort of stark, realistic
sort of
style.
Intense. Sort of claustrophobic. For me, it's not just the best drama of the year, because there have been a fair amount of those this year.
There's been a few.
But I think it's my favourite British drama for a long time. In fact, I don't know whether people still say, film is the better and that. I would sit them down to The Missing and say, just spend some time with this, because this is TV drama at its most compelling. Perhaps at times at its most confusing, because you do have to pay attention. You can't Twitter along with this, and that's what I love about it.
This is not a show to
people
watch
do that.
I know, but
this is not a show to do whilst doing something else. You have to give this your full attention. I think you're right.
I mean, why is that wrong? That's the way a good TV
but as you said, this is what we said. What we said about Broadchurch was, when we first watched Broadchurch, is you have to pay attention, otherwise you don't get it all. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Really
it's just, we watch a lot of drama now where they don't really require you to watch everything. There's scenes that are useless. There's conversations. There's characters that don't mean anything. It's like a dumbing down.
Yeah.
It's like a dumbing down of television.
The problem is the way TV's going, and good as these shows are, the littler shows that I used to think were all right, I just can't tolerate anymore, because this is the sort of thing we're best at and capable of, and I won't settle for anything that isn't at this level or got some characters.
It's not to say that those shows have their place, but this is the sort
usually
of thing
on ITV.
Okay, fair enough. But therefore, fine. Then we'll rely upon the BBC and Channel 4 to bring us these kind of very clever dramas.
One question that I had, and I don't know if I missed the answer to it, is how did Gettrick sort of find Sophie in the first place? Did they explain that at all?
What do you mean? How did he take her in the first place? No, they never explained it.
Because obviously Alice would have got in his van because she knew him. He was friends with her dad, presumably. They're in the army.
Yeah.
And as we know, Lena Garber, he was a friend of their family.
Yeah,
explain that.
No,
but that wasn't something.
Wasn't it something to do? Well, wasn't it something to do with? Wasn't the camper van German? So wouldn't that family have been in Germany? Isn't that the point, that they were in Germany?
They were from France.
Yeah, but weren't they in Germany? Because they said that the license plate.
No, because he said we'll take him back. No, he said they'll take you back to France if they find you. So that they were in France. So I don't know.
Okay.
That was something that they didn't.
It's a fair question. I must admit, he had a type, didn't he? He had a type. Yeah.
I think Checky Carrier has been absolutely fantastic.
He's brilliant.
Series 3 could go a completely different direction without him, without Julian Baptiste.
Oh no, I don't think it could.
No,
Well, who else would you focus on?
Well, I don't know, but don't forget he wasn't the lead character in series 1.
No, I know, but he's the
But he was